Hey everyone, welcome back. In this section, I'll be going over the steps you can take to come up with an idea for your business. I'll be covering how to find a problem, how to brainstorm potential solutions, how to conduct and evaluate market research, and how to take a problem into a final idea. So let's get started. There are four main approaches you can take to identify a business problem and come up with potential solutions. Those are improving efficiency, increasing accessibility, modifying a current service, or coming up with a completely new service. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can get around to identifying solutions using each approach. So the first approach is by improving efficiency. This entire method boils down to one question. Is there an easier way for something to be done? If you want to take this approach, you'll have to look at current tasks and services and see if there's a way we can make them more efficient and convenient. So while this isn't completely out of the box and you won't be reinventing the wheel, you'll probably end up disrupting the market. A really good example of this approach is Netflix. Before Netflix, the way most people would watch movies at home would be by going to a store like Blockbuster and going to rent a movie. But when Netflix arrived at the scene, they started off by mailing DVDs to a customer's home, making the entire process more convenient. Netflix slowly ended up killing Blockbuster, and Netflix continued to adapt to the changing market by making content available online and then eventually producing their own content through Netflix Originals. This is one example of ways your business can take a problem and make it simpler or more convenient. Another approach can be finding solutions that answer the question, can I make something more accessible? This consists of looking at current services and finding ways to increase the accessibility of the product or service to reach larger or new target markets. And this can often be the hardest to think of, but there are several opportunities that exist to make current products and services more accessible to certain markets. A very good example of this method is Airbnb. So the founders of Airbnb noticed that whenever there were any large events like conferences or etc., it'd be very hard for people to find housing or places to stay. So they created a platform that allowed travelers to find local places to stay during these events, and it became known as Airbnb. Airbnb was able to increase accessibility in the market by solving the problem of a lack of housing during short events. A third approach is by modifying a current service. And this approach focuses on the question, what can I improve about something that currently exists? So it's all about taking current solutions and finding new ways to improve the product or service. For example, you can find ways that something can be sold at a lower price with cheaper costs, or you can find a service that exists in one country and try to expand it to new markets and locations. However, it's extremely important to remember that if you do decide to go with this approach, that you are meeting some need that exists in a market and not just repeating a solution that's already present. And the first example I have is Uber. Before Uber and other ride sharing services, the way most people would travel would be by taking taxis. But the founders of Uber found a way to improve the taxi service and came up with a way that drivers could find customers or people in need of a ride through an app. And while this wasn't a revolutionary idea, it did meet an existing need and disrupted the ride sharing industry. The second example is Starbucks. The story behind Starbucks is very simple. Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, was in Italy and liked the idea of coffee shops located directly along the streets and sidewalks of several cities. So he took this idea and moved it into the US, where it became extremely popular and is one of the biggest businesses in the food and service industry today. Finally, the last approach is coming up with a completely new service. The main question you want to ask with this method is, what can I do to solve this new problem that exists? If you're a very intuitive and analytical person who can identify new solutions based on changing needs, then this might be the approach for you. Because it's important to note that as trends in consumer lifestyle and technology change over time, there are new opportunities for different markets and new products or services. A very good example of this approach is Facebook. With the more and more people using the internet, Facebook wanted a way for people to stay connected online, and thus Facebook was created and has become the biggest force in social media today. So while it can take a while to think of an idea with this approach, there's a very high reward if your business is solving the right problem. And the hardest part is deciding which problem specifically you want your business to solve. Sometimes the best way to brainstorm potential ideas can just be by taking a few days to think about the different tasks you complete every day or the different businesses you shop at. And each time you think of a problem, big or small, just jot it down. In the next video, I'll be going over how you can conduct research to test the feasibility of any of your ideas. Thanks for watching, and I hope this video was helpful in explaining how you can identify a problem for your potential business to solve.